Hello, my name is Sandra. Some people call me Cassie, other people call me Kass, and I am a traveling nomad. So what that means is I essentially don't have a permanent address. I just go from place to place. There's certainly some places that I've been more situated in, but I've kind of given up stability for a life of adventure. I was born and raised in California, born in LA, then moved up, lived near San Francisco area, and then came back down south. I feel like we're told that when we grow up, we go to school, then we go to college, we get a career, we get married, we have kids, and then we repeat and hope the same for them. And that is a great life. But at some point, I no longer want that and I wanted something different. When I was at college, when I was 18, I took a business class because I was studying business because I didn't know what else to do. And I was just really overwhelmed with the idea of working in an office for the rest of my life. And I felt like there was more to life than that. And I kind of wanted to know what that was. So, kind of on a fly, I just booked a trip to uh, Europe, traveled to London, Paris, Ireland for 2 weeks with my cousin, and it was eye-opening. It was the first time I felt like I was traveling independently without like parental guidance, and we had to figure everything out ourselves. And one of the most impactful things of that trip was meeting backpackers because we stayed at hostels and meeting backpackers along some of the tours we did. And it was my first time realizing that people did this like as a lifestyle. And it was then that I told myself that I wanted to do that too. I was on the verge of dropping out of college, but I decided to go back, and I committed to getting my degree because I felt like that could give me more opportunities afterwards. So, yeah, I stayed committed. I got my bachelor's degree in journalism and sociology. And I think especially sociology makes me really interested in other cultures, other societies, other ways of living, uh, learning about other people's walks of life. And I think that that's one of the greatest things that I've been able to experience while traveling is just sitting down with someone and having a conversation. And because of that interest, I want to start podcasts. This is several years in the making because it's taken a lot of time to really gain courage to, record yourself, talk to yourself, and post a video or a podcast uh, featuring yourself. And there's a lot of nerves in that, but I just decided let's just do it. Lots of people ask me like what my journeys are like, and I used to not really share much of it, and recently I've been a little bit more active on social media, and I've gotten good feedback from people who are curious to know the ins and outs of what I experienced. So for me, my favorite thing about traveling is meeting others, which is why I'm calling this podcast a backpacker's diary. And I want it to mostly be interview style. I want to sit down with others and uh, learn about who they are, where they come from, what their ideologies are, their perspectives of the world are, and share that with everyone who watches or listens. Um, and I can't stress enough, but that's one of my greatest pleasures, aside from the monuments, the statues, passport stamps, like people is really, and humanity is where my heart is at. Along my journeys, I've made so many friends, lifelong friends, and friends that I feel so lucky to have in my life. And I think that's been one of the greatest things I've experienced thus far. Uh, so, if you're at all interested in learning exactly what my journeys are like or the people I meet, then listen to the pod. I also want to share a little bit about maybe some travel tips. I don't really have a full vision for this, just kind of going for it and seeing where it goes. And I'm not expecting a large audience. I'm just kind of doing it for me. And I think that's the best way to go about it. And I feel like just sitting down and having open conversations is the best way to be empathetic in the modern day social world. So that's what I'm setting out to do. Okay, I just feel like I need to give a little bit of background information as to what exactly has happened. in these last 3 years since I've given up my life in California. And uh, it started with me being in university, finishing up my degree. I was living at my mom's house and just kind of making those big decisions at that point. I feel like growing up, you just are so focused on education, education, education. And when your career in education comes to an end, then you're faced with a question like, okay, now now what? Like, what do I do? What do I make of myself now? Um, like the world was absolutely endless, and I'm like, what do I want to do with myself? And I did have that dream of becoming a traveling nomad, but it's one thing to dream about something, it's another to actually do it. And I was terrified, what's the uh what's the shortness in not working out? No stability, am I going to be okay? Am I screwing myself financially? I don't know what's going to happen. And at the time, I didn't really know anybody that was living that kind of lifestyle. So immediately after getting my degree, I started the job hunt, and I was able to secure two jobs. Um, One was as a social media marketer, which is definitely in my field. It was in California. It was like 15 minutes from my mom's house where I was living at the time. Like, I feel like I had it good, and job, I absolutely loved it. But it didn't necessarily play to that dream side of me where I just wanted to travel and adventure. So I also applied to work as a summer camp counselor, which is not lucrative, which is not, going to bounce me into a career path, but it was adventurous. I remember being a kid going to camp and thinking about, oh my gosh, like these people get paid to be there, to have this much fun and adventure and rock climb and hiking. And I was like, what if I got paid for that? So I said yes to both jobs at the advice of my mom. She told me that I was just a number, and that scared me because I feel like I have a high sense of loyalty. But I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to burn one of these employers, and I feel so bad about that. But uh, I started working as a social media marketer probably in about February of 2021, and the summer camp job didn't start until June of 2021. So I was playing limbo the whole time. Like, I was working this job as a social media marketer, and the whole time I was thinking, like, do I want to stay? Do I want to go? Do I want to give this up? What am I doing? And I kept going back and forth. I was kind of hoping that maybe the summer camp job would just let me go because I was like delaying my paperwork. That way someone could make a decision for me. But then just 2 weeks before this summer job, my cousin Sadia recommended this movie called Into the Wild, and it inspired me to just take that leap. It's about this guy back in the 90s. True story. He graduates college and just completely erases himself from society. He gives up his trust fund. He leaves his hometown and just starts minimally traveling through America with the goal to get to Alaska. Um, that movie just seeing his adventure, seeing the people he met inspired me to think if he can do it, then I can do it too. So at that moment, I booked a flight, and this is just 2 weeks prior to it. So this is when I got fully committed to just leaving and jetting off to the East Coast. This was just a summer job, but for me, it was more than that. For me, it was an entryway into a nomadic life, and I knew that that's what that decision was. So in just 2 weeks' time, I sorted things out. I left California, and that was the start of my nomadic life. I went off to go work at this summer camp, which is a transformative experience. And from there, I heard about outdoor education teaching program in New Hampshire. So at this point, I'm just kind of living nomadically in New England, and to which I then eventually returned back to the camp the next summer. And COVID restrictions had kind of loosened up a bit, and we had more international staff. I met some individuals, specifically from the UK, that just completely changed my life. And one of the guys, his name's Elvis, he wanted to travel, and he was so inspired to travel as well. And after summer, we ended up, traveling along the East Coast, going to Niagara Falls, And then we wound up in Mexico, and he had invited me to go to the UK with him. So at some point, I booked a flight there, but then I changed my mind. I didn't want to go back to London, but I already had a flight to Germany. It was like a layover. So then that turned into backpacking by myself, solo traveling, backpacking through Eastern Europe, and then heading over west. And um, next thing I knew, it just started getting more and more elaborate. I was at Morocco. I went to India, uh, and then Turkey. I ended up hit Thailand, which I dreamed of. Thailand was a story in itself, and I'm definitely gonna have to share it another time. But I got into a car accident. I was on a moped, got hit by a truck, broke my nose, which wound me back up in America. Um, and there's just so many stories. And since then, I've continued to travel, Peru, Jamaica, various places, Current day, right now, I am in Cairo, Egypt. This is my 29th country that I've visited. That doesn't mean that I've explored fully all the countries I've been to, but I have been able to see a bit here and there. And ultimately, I just know that I love traveling. Um, and as I've said, I know that I love having conversations with others, and I'm excited to give a little bit of insight as to what those travels have been and what's ahead of me as well. Uh, I'm currently traveling eastward around the world, and headed to Vietnam to teach English there for a couple of months. And um, I do not know why. I don't know what the purpose is. I know the things that I've gained a great sense of community. I've gained a great sense of friends, and I've learned so much along my journey. And uh, the spiritual view that I've asked me to share some of those things. And yeah, I guess that's why I'm doing this podcast. I'm not really good at this kind of stuff, and I'm still trying to get comfortable with it. But you could call me Kass, and I hope you stick around.